Oh, welcome back to another track breakdown. I'm Hyfudiar, and today I'll be breaking down my second soundscape track, Horror Part 1, Approaching the House, I believe. That's what I called it. Let's see. Yes. This is all messed up because I started recording this 2 days ago. I got, decent ways into it, and then my computer started. Well, I didn't even know it was my computer. Something started making this high-pitched beeping sound, and I could not tell where it was coming from, and it was driving me insane. So I stopped the recording, and I recorded the rest of it just now. So I was about to go put the two halves together and upload it. And I don't know, something is wrong with that first part of the recording. So I'm re-recording it now. But anyway, this is the first of 3 parts of a horror soundscape that I'm working on. I'm working on the second part right now. It's all part of the same story, basically. There's not really a story. I could have gone a lot deeper in and actually written a plot to it, but for something without dialogue like this, I'm just trying to show my ability to make a soundscape. I'm not trying to, make a super complex and detailed world as far as world building goes. I'm just trying to make a super deep and complex sound environment. So I played a little fast and loose with the plot, but it's all part of the same thing. It's the same main character. I could have made it all as one thing, but with how much work this takes, it would have been months that I would be working on it. So I wanted to break it up. It also gives me a little more flexibility with changing up the soundtrack pretty dynamically between parts and stuff like that. They're all 3 parts are pretty distinct in terms of tone and what's going on. So breaking it up, I think, worked fine. This first part is really just building tension. Nothing really scary exactly happens in it. It's just this sort of foreboding thing of approaching this house in the woods at night and kind of being already a little nervous and hearing some sounds that may or may not exist, and that kind of adds to the tension. So first, we have shuffling a coat. So this is just I think it is one of my leather jackets. Brought it into the bathroom, which is the best place for me to record things, because there's a lot of street noise nearby, and the bathroom is at the back of the house. But I'm just kind of moving a jacket around to make the main character feel lived in, I guess. That he's not just sort of a ghost floating through this scene. He's actually moving around. Or she, doesn't matter. But I say he because, I don't know, I'm imagining myself in this situation. Oh, and then just a bit of filtering to get out some noise. Wind and rain in the trees. Now, this is a funny story. There's a trail near where I work, a very nice hiking trail, and I go up there to record sounds every so often. And while I was working on this, I was like, oh, I need some like wind and tree sounds. So I went out at like 9 to set up the recorder, and I went back in 9 at night. And well, it turns out it started raining about 3 minutes after I put it out there, and it was I left it out there for like an hour and a half or something. And by the time I got out there again, it was soaked. Everything was soaked. The entire trail was just mud. And you can even hear, like, it's already starting to rain now. It starts raining a lot harder eventually. So thankfully I got the recording fine. I put the recorder in a bag of rice to try to dry it out, and it seemed like that worked pretty well. I was shaking it out over my sink just to get out all the little grains of rice that got stuck in it, and it flipped out of my hands into a pot of dirty water. So then I had to wash it off and then stick it back in that bag of rice. But it's fine now, thankfully. But it is a little funny story about getting this recording. So, crickets. I synthesized these. Everything in this is either synthesized or recorded by myself. One of the reasons I was actually putting the recorder out there was to get some cricket sounds, but it turned out it was already too late in the year, so there weren't any crickets. So I had to synthesize them. To synthesize them, I got a recording of crickets and looked at it with a spectrogram. Or it actually might have been Spectrum here. And I made this specifically. This operator with these peaks at the peaks I saw in Spectrum. Then a gate to get out some noise and kind of this lower stuff that you'll see in a minute. I have a shifter with a very small LFO adjusting the fine control to get a little bit of pitch variation, tiny bit. Then a very fast LFO, which is creating the individual chirps, not the like audible chirps that you can hear with like this beat, but within each of those chirps there's like 5 tiny little clicks, and so that's what I'm making with this LFO, controlling the volume of operator. And then I have this shifter, or shaper rather, making the shape of the chirps, controlling the offset here. I hope my computer doesn't crash. There's a reason I have this frozen. making the shapes of the chirps with a little bit of jitter and stuff. Just so, you know, there's a little bit of variation. Then a little bit of effects to kind of give it a bit more space. And I posted this on the Sound Design Reddit to hear if anyone had any recommendations. And the main thing I heard was that it wasn't big enough. Like, it sounded like one cricket. So I made a couple copies, which are panned a little bit, I think, and also filtered slightly differently to kind of make them sound like they're at different distances from the main character. But I also have a small random LFO on the phase control of the shaper. So it breaks up shaper a little bit. So it's not always on beat. It will sometimes come a little bit before or a little bit after or something like that, or it'll skip a beat or whatever. Because, you know, with like a bunch of crickets chirping, they're not going to be all synchronized all the time, you know. It sounds a little janky sometimes if it shifts the phase when it's in the middle of a cycle, or like if this is up and then it shifts the phase to here and it just suddenly cuts off, sort of like that. But with a bunch of them going and it being in the background anyway, it doesn't really stand out. Let me refreeze this. Nope, never mind. I'm not going to. I think it's a pretty good sounding cricket. So here's the heartbeat. This is the second thing I synthesized. Very similarly, I just got a recording of a heartbeat and looked at it and then recreated it in Operator. So normally, like, you can just kind of make this basically a low kick drum, and that can make a pretty serviceable heartbeat. But one thing I was realizing as I looked at the heartbeat recording is that for each beat there are kind of two beats very closely together. So for each ba-bump, or in ba-bump, each ba is actually like two buzz stacked together, just slightly offset. So the way I recreated this makes a much more like full sound. I just copied it and then put a very slight delay on it. I have a very small random LFO adjusting the delay time a little bit, just to give a little extra variation. But I think that's a pretty good sounding heartbeat. So breathing now. I went into one of the recording booths at my work. It's not really a recording booth exactly, but it's this, it's this weird little thing that happens to work very well as a recording booth. So there's a lot of like sound insulation. So I record a lot of stuff in there. And I just went in and recorded breathing for a while. It was very weird. My body responded very strangely to it. Like my teeth felt electric, and like my head was spinning. I kept like slumping over in the booth. Like I would understand it for hyperventilating, like I did for a little while, but it was even happening just for like breathing normally, which is very weird. I normally breathe through my nose, so breathing through my mouth so much was maybe, I don't know, that's very weird. But I recorded a bunch of different like speeds of breathing and then chopped them up between throughout the track to kind of respond to things going on in the track. Now, walking through the trail at night. This was, well, the same trail at or nearby my work that I just went on a walk through at some point. This was a pretty annoying recording to work with because I didn't have a pop filter on my mic at the time. So you get a lot of this like wind clipping sort of thing. So this took a good bit of work with compressors, filters, and EQs. But in the end, I think the wind isn't too... It's not too bad. I mean, you could definitely hear it, but I did also... I do like that the low end rumble from wind, so I did separate that out and add that in a bit. But, yeah, too much for that. River. This is just, I took this with the H3 VR, so it's a very surround sound recording, even though in this it's just panned all the way to the side. It's a pretty nice recording the river. And wind chimes. I'm not sure why, but there was this little snippet of the recording at the start. I don't know why it got left there, or I don't know why it was there, but I did choose to leave it there just because I kind of thought it was funny. You can't even really hear it in the final version, but so these are just some wind chimes that I got a while ago, specifically for sound effects or production or whatever, and took them into my closet and was jangling them around. I did use shifter and vibrato a bit, pretty slow vibrato, just to make it sound a little bit off, a little unnatural. One kind of funny thing, the first and last parts of this are actually the same recording. but you can't hear it much when you're hearing the first part because the scream happens then, and it's also just like slowly being faded in. So I was able to copy it over at the end without it standing out. I really like wind chimes. And that's all for this half. Now I will pass you off to the second half that I already recorded. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about, there's all this stuff at the top. This was mostly just stuff I was kind of testing out, and you know, I'd put samples in here and then pull out little clips of it to throw into sampler or whatever like that. But yeah, that's about it. Alright, welcome back. 2 days later now, back to this. Turned out it was something in my computer that was making that squeaking sound. It was driving me insane. Alright, so we're on the metal hinges now. So these were made out of some, I don't know, some metal hinges for something that I found in the dumpster at my work. Find a lot of sound sources in the dumpster. But, you know, it was just a little metal hinge. I have no idea what it was from. It was weird, but made for a pretty good sounding gate. A little bit of filtering to you know, get rid of noise. This sweeps up as I approach it. So this last one, I believe, is the sound of opening the gate, and then this below it is panned to the other side as you're kind of walking through it, because the hinges are on your left, latch is on your right. What did I make this from, actually? I think I must have just used that from the same recording I had. Just makes for a pretty good, like, latching gate sound. Alright, so stairs. These, I had to hunt around for a while to get some wooden stairs in a place that there wasn't an insane amount of ambient noise. But I found them eventually. Let's see what this is. I don't remember. Oh, I think this is just walking around on the porch. That's what I use that for. Yeah, not much to say about that. Some creaking wood for going up the stairs and then walking around on the porch. Some of these came from I recorded walking up very creaky stairs at my family's house, and some of them came from basically getting broken pieces of wood that were nailed together and then kind of slowly pulling them apart. The sound of the nail straining in the wood made for a good creaking wood sound. is this? Oh. This, this wasn't used in the track, but I made this little beat. Oops. Guessing this is probably like very pitched down. I'm not sure. I have some resampling going on, but I was just messing around with the Wood Creek recordings, kind of isolating an individual creek, and kind of made this little beat out of it. Might do something with that eventually. I don't know, but it sounded pretty cool. Alright, so that wasn't actually used in the track at all. Knocking, oh, this is just knocking on the door, the front door, before going in. Oops. Yeah, I think I just recorded like knocking on my closet door or something. And this is the door opening. It's my bathroom door. And then closing. Alright, so next, doorknob. Oh, so that, yeah, that's just latching the door after closing it. TV static, this comes up more in the second part, but I kind of wanted to have it in here as a little bit of like connection between the two parts. The one in the second part is actually better than this, but I just have like a 60 hertz square wave and noise. In the second one, I also have it's like 15,625 hertz or something like that. This very high pitched sound that you also get, which I didn't know about when I made this. But yeah, not much to that. Flies. So this was annoying. I also kind of made it more difficult for myself than it needed to be. So these don't entirely sound like flies. I think they sound like a much bigger bug. But I think they still worked pretty well. Like it sounds like a flying insect, which is pretty much all it needed to be. But it was made out of running my nails together very quickly, like that, or clicking mouse buttons very quickly, like that, and then speeding them up and layering them and chopping them up a bit, and then panning them around randomly. Now, where I messed up is what I could have done is just resampled these together, and then I automated panning, recorded the automation live. But then what I did, this is the one I recorded live, and then I tried to copy it on this, like drawing it by hand to match the shape of this, which was very silly because I could have just resampled them together and then panned it once and been fine. So that was kind of dumb, but yeah, I think they came out pretty well. I'm not sure what this is. I'm not sure what this is. It sounds like, I don't know, I did something else with the recording and then chopped it up a bit. I'm not sure why that's there, or if it's even in the final version. It's been a little while. Oh yeah, so this is I wanted to have some way to end it rather than just kind of stopping the audio. So in I think it was probably Bento noise box. Incredible synthesizer. Maybe I should do a whole video about Bento and Ongaku sometime, because they're both really good. But I was just messing around in Bento and made this kind of foreboding noise thing that I swept up through, and also made quiet over time, like that, just to fade out, and yeah, just kind of have a foreboding ending. This is nothing, so that's afterward. Flashlight. This is at the very start. Turning on the flashlight. I think that may actually have been. I have this little. It's like a flashlight head that just has a USB plug on the back. That you can kind of use it with a portable USB charger as a little flashlight, but it has a little nice clicky button on it, and I'm pretty sure that's what I recorded for that. So I want to have a little more texture to walking around, so I went outside and just recorded kind of moving leaves around for a little while, and I have that scattered throughout the track. Make it more obvious that you're walking through the woods. Oh, I think I probably automated something down at that point, which is why you can't hear it. Not sure why you can't hear that. Anyway, yeah, that's why I had those there. So whispers, this is the first like kind of scary thing. Or actually, I guess both of them are here. So I just have like a lot of reverb, Valhalla on it. But I just took multiple recordings of kind of whispering nonsense. And then this one. Yeah, that's about it. I didn't want the later parts of the soundscape are going to be more directly scary. Nothing that happens in this is really scary per se. It's just building tension. I wanted this to be more tense than scary at this point. So I just have these kind of sounds that you hear and the main character reacts to that aren't actually really threatening, just kind of surprising. Scream. I went into the recording booth at work and just recorded my own screams for a while. I'm not good at screaming. I've never screamed before. Screams are not very good, but this was the best scream. I would go through some distortion to make it a little, you know, a little distorted, then filter it out so it's not oppressive, then reverb and filter, you know. Tinnitus, which happens directly after the scream. This is here because it's a relatively common thing in video games, is to have like tinnitus after something happens. So I put it in for that. I'm not sure how I came to this frequency. If I actually looked it up to see like what frequency tinnitus is at. I don't know how I would be able... I have tinnitus like all the time, but I have no idea how I would judge like what the frequency of it is. So I'm guessing I probably just kind of guessed for that. And now we are on to the soundtrack. So I took inspiration from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre soundtrack a lot. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my favorite horror movie, and I absolutely love the soundtrack, and how the soundtrack is just kind of comprised of sounds put together in a way that they are not even frightening, just sort of like it makes you uncomfortable. I want to say there was some video game I was also thinking of, but I can't remember. So I guess I'll just go through all of these parts of the soundtrack. I'm gonna leave these for now because they don't come up until much later. The bass of the soundtrack is this piano, which, as mentioned, is the one thing that I didn't record myself, even though I realized afterward that I just could have. Have distortion, filters, vibrato, reverb, etc. You see the vocoder here, but that let's see, actually, how do I have that automated? Where is it? What? I'm on piano A0. Let's see the automation. Oh no, I mapped a lot of stuff to macros. I might have automated them. I'm not sure. But basically, I have these A0, G sharp 0, and C sharp 0. The same piano. And around the time he gets to the house, I start vocoding it onto this. Which is tension on bow at a very low pitch, which is one of my favorite sounds in Ableton. It's so unnatural and metallic, and it's an incredible sound. So I started vocoding them together. Let's see if you can. I mean, there's other stuff going on, but I really like the way it sounded vocoded onto the piano. Let's see. There's these kicks. Can't really hear them. I don't know that I even actually used these. Why? Oh, that's why. Two simple kicks. Then there's these pads. Which are the other key part of the soundtrack. C sharp 0, D sharp 0, E0, and F sharp 0. So wavetable, phaser, echo, reverb, auto pan. You know. There's this high pitch thing. It sounds kind of like the tinnitus, and actually I kind of regret putting it in because I think it could be confused with the tinnitus, even though it I like. How did I do it? Oh yeah, the shaper MIDI has an envelope controlling the shifter, which is not. Oh, it's also controlling the dry wet. So because it's not 100% dry, it comes out of phase, and it kind of makes that speeding up, warbly kind of thing. It's a pretty cool sound, I think, but it's pretty easy to miss with everything else going on. Another note, same thing. I think this is just one of these kicks reversed. This is another one I don't think I ended up using, even though it sounds pretty cool. And then we have a lot of samples. So I think that is actually scraping the thing that has the metal hinges. along like a concrete floor or something. This is various, like, hitting metal things together, dropping metal things, whatever like that. Scraping things. I don't remember what each individual one is because I find stuff in the dumpster and then record it, basically. I think that was from my guitar. Let me see. I mean, it still sounds weird because it's got this grain delay thing on it, but yeah, I think that's from my guitar. This is from this big metal bin at my work, hitting the side of that. It's a smaller metal bin. I don't know why I called that vibrato. Not really a vibrato. Not sure why it's called that, but another cool sound. I think that's also hitting the side of one of these big bins, but a more like crash noisy version. So this is actually the same, I think it might even be the same recording of the metal bowl thing I rang for Material and Immaterial 1. It's a pretty long sample because it's pitched down so far. So pitched it down before putting it in here, I guess. It's a pretty cool sound. This was in the recording booth at work. I had some glass bottle or something like that, and I kind of sanded down one side of it and got this metal thing, and I was scraping into it and making a lot of like glass dust, which is not great, but got some pretty good sounds from that. There's that without the redux. No, this is just one of these piano hits reversed. I'll watch that. This is my guitar bowed, the violin bow. Can get a lot of really good sounds with that, although it is kind of awkward sometimes. It's often difficult to hit like a specific string, but you can get really good sounds that way. And then this is scraping along like the E string probably on the guitar. Very, very good horror sound. A very classic horror sound. I love that one in particular. It's a really sweet sound. It sounds almost like a voice, I think. Sounds very cool. And it wasn't intentional, but it actually lined up well. Like it happened to be in sync with one of the quote-unquote scares, I believe. So, I don't know. It's a very cool sound. And that's all of them. Like, if you want to listen to or the track, like how it sounds by itself. I tried to time things out so the sounds kind of filled the gaps between the synths, because I have the synths always on this LFO amplitude, so it's kind of as the synths are going down, triggers the sound. But I really liked how the soundtrack came out for this one. Very tense. Soundtrack for the other ones I'm not even really sure about yet. From what I've been working on for the second one, it seems like it's going to be a bit more intense. But we'll see. There's certainly going to be parts where it's probably going to be more like this, but some parts where it's going to get more intense. I have some... Well, I have an insane amount of automation on all of this, but I have some kind of global automation. One thing I kind of messed up. So when the scares happen, I wanted everything other than the scary thing, heartbeats and breathing, to have a low pass filter. So I was like, oh, I'll put it all on a return track or send track or whatever, and then send them all to that. What I didn't realize is you still hear the track when it's being sent. If you don't want to hear the track, you have to put it on pre-fader and then turn off the volume on that. But I did not realize that at the time, so it doesn't really work right. So that was kind of annoying. The whole time I was being, I was like, what is going on with this send track? Like, I still hear stuff even though it should be like completely filtered out. So yeah, that's kind of too bad, but whatever. I think that's about it. It was a huge project, and I'm looking forward to getting the second part done soon-ish, hopefully. And then I think I'd like to have the third part done by like New Year's. That's the goal, but we'll see. This stuff always ends up taking way longer than expected. I'm actually gonna do a video of it right now, but the track I just released, called Release, was something I made in a couple hours at work. It was like pretty much all done. I was like, I'm just gonna throw it on the computer at home and add some more details and stuff. It ended up being like 12 hours longer before I was done with it. So yeah, stuff always takes longer. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.